All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going under the hood to look at the hidden architecture of the internet. We're talking about the invisible engines that aren't just shaping your feed, but, just maybe, shaping reality itself.
So let's kick things off with a pretty fundamental question. What if the world you see around you isn't some fixed, solid stage? What if it's actually more like a living fire? And your attention, your emotions, your participation is the very fuel that keeps it all burning.
And that idea of being fuel, well, it leads us to this really chilling thought from one of our sources. You are fuel with opinions. It's so blunt, right? But it's absolutely key to understanding everything else we're about to talk about. It completely reframes our role. We're not consumers of information. We're the resource being consumed.
Okay, so to get how that really works, we have to start by completely rethinking what reality even is. That brings us to our first principle. Reality is a contract. The core idea here is something called participatory reality. Now, what it suggests is that reality isn't this solid, pre-made thing that's just there. It's much more like a dynamic agreement, a contract that all of us are collectively signing and renewing every single moment with our attention. We aren't just watching the show, we are co-authoring the script.
And this co-authoring, it isn't some abstract idea. It's metabolic. We are literally feeding reality with very real resources, our time, our really powerful emotions like outrage and desire, the stories we tell, the identities we build for ourselves, and yeah, especially our fear. The rule is simple. What we feed grows.
This completely flips the script on what attention is. It's not a passive thing at all. It's an incredibly powerful selection engine. In a world of basically infinite possibilities, your attention is the spotlight. It's what chooses which ideas get amplified, which ones gain influence, and ultimately, which ones become real enough to actually make people act.
Okay, so if reality is this giant participatory ecosystem that we're all constantly feeding with our attention, then you have to ask the next question, right? What lives in it? Which brings us to Section 2, Meet the Social Predators.
Well, the entities that emerge from the system are called egregores, and our sources give us two fascinating ways to look at them. On one side, you've got Nyarlathotep's view, which is super poetic and frankly pretty menacing. An egregore is a social predator, a co-authored engine of belief, or, my favorite, hunger with a mask. Wow. On the other side, you've got Hyper-Sothery, which gives us this very technical, almost engineering-like framework. It's a collective thought form, an attention-shaped attractor, or intersubjective infrastructure. But here's the thing. They are both pointing at the exact same phenomenon, a collective idea that starts to act like it has a mind of its own.
And let's be absolutely clear on this. We are not talking about something that's just imaginary. An egregore is a functional, observable thing. It's basically a powerful feedback loop that gets stuck on repeat, a self-maintaining pattern connecting our minds, the symbols we use, and our actual behaviors.
Now, this all might sound a little mystical. I get it. But the wild part is that the process is surprisingly mechanical. It's almost like a recipe. So let's take a look at how one of these things is actually built. Welcome to the birth of a thought form.
I mean, this is really the heart of it, isn't it? How does a simple meme, a story, or a hashtag suddenly seem to take on a life of its own? How does it develop its own momentum, its own agency, and just go? Well, like I said, there's a recipe.
According to Hyper-Sothery, this whole incubation process happens in 4 stages. First up, the seed appears. This can be anything, a symbol, a hashtag, a name. Second, it gets a charge. That's when powerful emotions get attached to that symbol. Third, we get enactment. This is where we start doing things with it. We share it, we perform it, we build our identities around it. And finally, you get animation. This is when the symbol itself starts pulling in attention all on its own. It actually learns how to make you come back.
And this last stage is absolutely critical. It's called the animation point. This is the moment everything flips. It's the tipping point where you go from using a symbol to express yourself to the symbol using you to spread itself. It doesn't need your conscious effort anymore. It has its own momentum now.
And this, right here, this might just be the most important rule of the entire game. Belief is optional. You don't have to consciously believe in some movement or some brand to give it power. You just have to participate. Arguing against it, rage posting about it, even just doom scrolling through it, it's all fuel. It all counts.
So let's connect this ancient-sounding concept to our world right now. Where is this whole process happening at an absolutely unbelievable scale? Well, that brings us to Section 4, the Great Online Ritual. The connection is so direct, it's kind of shocking. The internet, and yes, specifically social media, is the most powerful, most efficient egregore incubator ever created in human history. It's like we built this vast global temple by accident, without ever really realizing what we were summoning inside it.
The analogy to an ancient ritual is just startlingly direct when you lay it out. The physical temple is now your feed. The incense and bells they use to grab your attention, those are your notifications. The repetitive chants, well, that's just called sharing and reposting. And the priesthood that guides the whole ritual, that's the algorithm. And it has one single goal: maximize participation, maximize the feeding. This is exactly where Hyper-Sothery's technical infrastructure meets Nyarlathotep's poetic hungware with a mask.
So what's the endgame for all of this? It's a state called ontological capture. Now that's a fancy term for when a thought form, a fiction, becomes so incredibly powerful that it actually starts to dictate reality. Money starts moving, laws get passed, institutions change, not because the egregore is physically real, but because enough of us are acting as if it is. It has successfully captured cause and effect.
Okay, I know this all sounds pretty bleak, maybe even a little hopeless, but the theory also offers a path forward, a path to agency. And that brings us to our final section, which is all about your role in this system, your two sacred rights.
So here's the hard truth of a participatory reality. There's just no neutral ground. You're not an innocent bystander just watching the world go by. Every second of your attention, every click you make, every single share is an act of creation. You are always allocating power, whether you intend to or not.
And that leaves you with a fundamental choice. What are you going to be? Are you a battery, just unconsciously feeding whatever patterns happen across your screen, just fuel for 1,000 competing thought forms? Or are you going to be an engineer? Someone who consciously allocates their attention, who cultivates the realities they want to see, and who becomes an architect of the system instead of a victim of it.
If you choose to be an engineer, you have two primary tools, or rights. The first one is starvation. You withdraw your most precious resource, your attention, from the patterns you want to make weaker. And as the source says, silence is not passive, it is a blade. The second right is cultivation. You consciously feed what you want to grow. Your ideals, your art, your community, they require the exact same nutrients as your demons.
And this leads us to one last incredibly powerful lesson. To hate an egregore is to pray to it through clenched teeth. Just think about that. Fighting something, obsessing over it, dedicating your entire identity to opposing it, that's one of the most potent ways to feed it. In Nyarlathotep's terms, that hatred is just a more delicious flavor of fuel for the social predator.
So, we'll leave you with this. This whole framework, it's not just some weird internet theory. It's a lens for viewing your own digital life, your own agency. It presents a world where you are an active participant, a co-creator. So now that you know the rules of the game, what will you choose to make real?